Hi there, Bill Kristol here with my colleague A.B. Stoddard and friend A.B. Stoddard and equally cheerful A.B. Stoddard to discuss Super Tuesday, inspiring results. A very super Tuesday here, 10 o'clock Tuesday night. A.B., what do people need to know?
So, Bill, tomorrow when the dust settles and everything is tabulated, what obviously we care about, what we'll be looking for, is any signs of weakness in President Trump's showings. We don't know exactly how much Nikki vote is illustrating some vulnerability for him. We don't have the final numbers. We're not sure in every place how many Democrats showed up to vote for Nikki Haley, but we want to look at these collectively and get an assessment of his weakness. That's obviously the story here. The story is not how many delegates Nikki Haley ends up with. The story is not what her plan is to go forward. Does she have a convention plan? Is she going to end this in 4 days or 14 or 40? The meat of tonight is, what does it mean about Donald Trump in terms of what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are as he clinches the nomination. So that's what we're looking for. I'm a little concerned about Joe Biden in Minnesota with his uncommitted vote there. It's like 16%. If you add in Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips, it's that is a state where you don't want him with a lot of voters sitting on their hands and protesting come the fall. So that's something. But those are my takeaways. I really want to see whether or not we're going to have between 22, 25, maybe in some places higher, of Republicans saying they just are not going to support Trump in the fall.
But I'd say generally, honestly, if you had said to me even a couple of weeks ago when Trump was already winning everywhere, that he looks, I've done just back of the envelope math. We don't have California yet, so it's really hard to know what the total numbers are. It looks to me like Trump's going to win better than beat Haley, better than 2-1, maybe 70-30, maybe a little better even. Sort of Texas, big numbers, and we'll see what California is. Virginia, where I live, and I know a little bit about this politics here, 2-1 almost, Trump over Haley, pretty commanding. I would say, I hate to say this, but Donald Trump has had a good nominating season. If you had told us a year ago, DeSantis is there, maybe there's Haley and Scott and Pence and all this, but the field's not going to stay fractured. Good news, it's going to consolidate. It's going to consolidate behind probably one of the best candidates it could have consolidated behind, Haley, who's acceptable to a large part of the party. And Trump is going to win every state except Vermont. I guess he's a little behind there, and those fine, upstanding New Englanders in Vermont are doing the right thing. And I'm moving to Vermont actually tomorrow, but just to get out of these 2-1 Trump states. I don't know. I'm a little. I've got to. I hate to say it, but we of course will look for weakness, and we'll look for there is resistance to Trump. 25%, not nothing of 30% of the voters, some of whom are actual Republicans, some of whom are Democrats, but I don't know. It's a pretty strong showing by Donald Trump.
Oh, Bill, we knew this the night of the Iowa caucuses, right? He was always
I guess that's
the nominee. We've known he was the nominee since by the time DeSantis, so a year ago on March 5th, we didn't know, but by mid-April we did, long before DeSantis even entered. And so my argument is, this isn't about the presumptive nominee. It's about the general election and what our coalition is going to be able to produce. And so I think that's all that matters to me, is whether or not there are those people telling exit pollsters, I may sit it out. I won't vote for the nominee. Are they really Republicans? Can they come around? And if you look at the exit polling, what's important to me, I know I'm really trying to be an optimist tonight, but really I always surprise sometimes.
I'm impressed by this.
I'm actually finding some silver linings here, is that if you look at the big lie number, right, even if you think, the party in the end can usually bring those people, the protest voters, home, they come back and they unite behind the nominee. Not if they believe that Joe Biden won the election. And when you look at the exit polling and you look at the Haley support, of voters who believe that Joe Biden legitimately won. I think that, right, that's the opportunity. And so it's not a situation where you are going to talk to a 25-year-old Arab American in Michigan in September and say, you never got a recession. You were told you were going to. We've come up with a ceasefire, or maybe even better at that point. I don't know what's going on at that point in Gaza, but you're saying to that voter, are you going to support a party that won't let people start families with in vitro fertilization and might be coming for birth control? They've taken away a right to abortion in a lot of places. I mean, at that point, right, people are weighing whether or not, as a Democrat, they support Joe Biden. I think if you look at the erosion that Trump has in the Haley coalition, it's that they don't believe that he won, and they know that he lied. And I think that is the voter that doesn't come around. So I'm trying to that's my silver lining.
No, that's a good.
See in the next couple of days when the dust settles, how much after Super Tuesday, Donald Trump is missing considerable vote.
That is that's clearly the right way to think about it. And some of, when look, if he loses, if Haley's at 25%, a lot of states, and if half of them don't come back to Trump, and if most of those half are actual potential Trump voters, not just Biden supporters or whatever, to vote for Haley in the states that have open primaries, Virginia does, but not all of them do. North Carolina doesn't. It may turn out that he's, Trump lost 7 or 8% of Republicans, I think, in 2020. That's why he lost. Maybe he'll lose 10 or 11 or 13% in 2024. I think it's a good point you make about the election. I mean, I've always been suspicious of these exit polls. Will you not support the person for your own party in the general election? I was on Fox constantly in 2008, and there was an unbelievable amount of wishful thinking as the Obama-Clinton race went on and on and on. And every exit poll in those late-ish primaries, Illinois, I can't remember, Indiana, I think, and
yes,
Illinois, the Midwestern primaries, Pennsylvania, would ask the Hillary voters, would you support Obama? Oh, no. That was a pretty bitter campaign, right? So they're like 35%. I'm not supporting that guy in the fall. Of course, by the end, they all supported, all the Democrats coalesced. It is different now because Trump is different. It's not a Hillary-Obama situation. It's not a McCain, even Romney situation or whatever. And so I think that's a key point you're making. Is Trump distinctive enough that he puts off, not just now, but 8 months from now, enough Republican voters right now or independent voters or Democrats who sometimes vote Republican, puts them off. They're now voting for Haley, and they can be shepherded either to Biden or conceivably to an independent or third party candidate, which might still be better than obviously having to come back to Trump, or to sit it out. I mean, that is really the question. So it will be interesting to look, as you say, at the Haley vote. On the other hand, Trump, for all that we say, Trump's the incumbent. You have to judge him as an incumbent. He's not I don't know. The guy gets January 6th happens. He lies about the election. He's indicted 4 times and he wins. He's the only person. What is he? The only person since FDR, I think, right? Ever, I guess, to win 3 consecutive nominations. And Nixon won 3, but not consecutively. And I don't know. I'm a little freaked out by Trump's political
what you're doing
ability.
Is you're focusing on the Republican electorate, and I've lost faith in them a long time ago, and they're lunatics. So that's not a problem for me. I'm concerned about us, the general electorate.
Yep.
That Trump gets new converts among the young, Latino, Black, women, Asian. That is my concern. It's not his stranglehold and his on the Republican base and his third nomination. And, he's basically, just like a dictator, right? Like that's we've been discussing this and gnashing our teeth for so long about that. That part is known. It's right. Will the general electorate dismiss a coup, a 2-month coup that failed, then a deadly insurrection, then the refusal to stop lying about it and making the entire party? I mean, Ken Buck today gave an interview saying he's leaving his job because he refuses to keep lying to the American electorate right. about Donald Trump's loss. So that to me is like they're a lost cause. All I care about is the general in November and whether or not, and to me, I would like the Haley voter who cannot abide Trump but can abide Biden to sit it out and not vote third party.
No, it's a good point. I mean, I guess yes. If you take the reality we're facing, it makes unbelievable amount of difference whether Trump can get to 48 or 49% or stalls at around 45 or 46. And that's what we're talking about with those Haley voters not coming back or coming back, or maybe even 44 if Trump fades a little bit. And I mean, from another point of view, as you step back, as one steps back, though, it's still kind of astounding, honestly, that he is where he is. Yeah, Ken Buck, another, who's been very courageous the last 2-3 months, or even longer. But of course, he's retiring too. So it's like, really, I don't. If you looked at any of these Republican primaries, is I assume the party will be even more Trumpy in 2025 than it is today, right?
The institutionalists are leaving. I mean, you look at the Senate, the people who did the most to get Joe Biden's agenda passed, a bunch of bipartisan bills when there was no math and no margin in either chamber. And they get 6 or 7 consequential, meaningful laws passed with the help of Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, and Mitt Romney. And they're all leaving, and in the House,
and the country doesn't care.
Right, and the institutionalist members and the centrist members in the House who are leaving will be replaced by people who want to wreck the system. And so it's. But again, when you say the country doesn't care, that's true. I don't think the voters have looked at the ramifications of the resignation, the retirements in the House, the whole system breaking down in the House Republican majority, and then under Trump again, what we'll get, because the voters won't tolerate someone who's coming to problem solve or cross the aisle, any of that. So compromise. So it is, when you look at the Senate with Mitch McConnell stepping down, what kind of a leader will replace him, and then you look at the members who will win the primaries tonight in the open seats, and there are so many in the House for Republicans. It's the trend will be bad.
It is remarkable. Yeah. I mean, obviously some voters do appreciate it, and arguably it could be 55% of the voters that end up appreciating, as they seem to be doing in Pennsylvania with Josh Shapiro, or maybe Colorado with Jared Polis, appreciating moderate governance that does have some bipartisan support, or some Republican governors for that matter. But but still, we have a 2-party system, and I don't know. Do you think anything? I don't know. I mean, I think the Biden numbers are hard to. I don't put, an incumbent. He's not running much. I mean, and nor should he bother probably running much of a campaign. I don't put a huge amount of stock in whether the uncommitted vote is 16% or 11% or 8%. Obama had a pretty high uncommitted vote in 2012 and stuff. He's got a. You and I have shared our concerns about him as a candidate, and that's a slightly
many times.
That's a real issue, and we'll see. I guess how the State of the Union goes on Thursday. So it's over, right? I mean, this is it. March 5th, we bracketing the whole question of independence and third parties, bracketing the question of conceivably Biden stepping aside in the next 4 months or whatever. Basically, here we are 8 months away from Election Day, and it's the current president against the former president, the current 81-year-old president against the former 77-year-old president, and in a rerun that most voters don't want.
It is what we knew would come, that they would wake up on March 6th, as you've been saying for weeks, and just this would bear down on them, much as they hoped that Nikki Haley was a contender and something would happen, and surely Joe Biden was going to switch out with another candidate, and Donald Trump was maybe going to jail or court or something. When the general electorate, who's not engaged in politics, tunes in this week, they will be disappointed. But I don't know that shifts the polls. Maybe it does. What I am happy about today is the fact that Sinema is not running in Arizona. I think that if Kari Lake is a problematic candidate for Republicans, that doesn't help Trump. It's a critical battleground. Gallego is going to be a good candidate for the Democrats, and I think that helps Biden. And then in North Carolina, that guy, Mark Robinson?
Yeah. I think so.
I mean, he's a lunatic. So the fact that he's running for governor, I have said all along, it's not a swing state. We're dealing with 6. North Carolina is not the 7th. It's not in play. But now I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina was closer than Michigan. Was closer than Michigan last time. I mean, people are being a little. I think it could be more. it hasn't flipped back and forth, so people don't think of it as a
Right.
it's not a pure swing state, but I think it could be close. Yeah, and that is the one thing we know from 2022, I think, is that really wacky extremist candidates, maybe especially for governor, I think, because voters do think with governor, you have to actually do things, and not just a senator. That can't just be a showboat. Do put voters off. We saw that in Pennsylvania and Michigan in 2022. And if that matter in Arizona with Kerry Lake. And I do wonder, in North Carolina, I wonder if the Biden people will be taking a look and deciding, you know what, we should probably treat that almost as on a par with the other 6 swing states. It's interesting. And
I
so
just
in
feel
a
like
way,
with
that is
someone
the one
like
that
him,
Biden has. He has popular Democratic governors in Pennsylvania and Michigan, reasonably popular governor in Wisconsin, I guess you'd say, right? And he has now will have in North Carolina a really lunatic Republican gubernatorial candidate. That's got to help the general sense that the Democrats are not a crazy party a fair amount.
I think it's going to drive up turnout in North Carolina considerably. We'll see where that gets us, but once you have a fringe candidate like that, it's going to drive people up in this environment, and I do believe that even Democrats who are apathetic about Biden will be mad about him, the idea of him as governor, and I think so that energizes them. So that's a factor, and I do think Kerry Lake is distrusted by Republicans in Arizona. She's liked, disrespected, and she's fresh in their minds. She just ran a crazy campaign in the last cycle, and there's Democrat as a governor. I mean, the governor's a Democrat, beat an election denier. Secretary of State's a Democrat, beat an election denier. The Democrats have a good infrastructure there now since 2022. I'm just feeling a little better about Arizona.
Good. Good. Let me ask you one last question. We'll let people go back to carefully studying, making, looking at Zillow. Zillow, is that what it's called? For to see what's available in Vermont, to rent or to buy. And there was a poll today, I think, that came out that showed very little penetration among the public of the notion of what Trump's plans are or could be for a second term. The Heritage Foundation stuff, obviously, the real authoritarian playbook that's out there. And I suppose, what you're saying about North Carolina made me think about this, that maybe some of these living characters will help reinforce the notion that the Trump second term really could be something not like the first term, no guardrails, none of the institutions weaker, the individuals in the White House very, very different, obviously, than the administration. I don't know. I guess Biden's got to really and bring that home, though, right, over the next 6-7 months. I mean, that's really it. That the retrospective judgment right now is bad for Biden. People think they did better under Trump than they've done under Biden. That could change some. Little hard to do that, I think, actually, to go back and tell people, no, you're wrong. In 2019, you really didn't do as well as you thought. I do think the forward-looking argument could be more effective in spooking people that, I kind of didn't mind Trump so much that first time, but maybe it's too risky for another term. Do you think?
One of the things, so we've criticized Biden and we're worried about his weaknesses and his liabilities. I don't know that he should be the one making that point, but they've got a ton of surrogates who can paint a really crisp picture of what that looks like. I don't care if it's Chris Coons or Gavin Newsom, or run the gamut of people saying, and they can run dramatic ads, obviously. But once a guy wants protests so that he can incite so that he can invoke the Insurrection Act, so that there are tanks in the street, and he uses them as sort of a law enforcement arm against immigrants and crazy protesters and radical leftists and fascists and whatever the vermin that we all are if we're not in the thrall of Trump. I mean, really paint a picture of that for Americans who don't yet understand that. I think that's really important, and it's part of our frustration, right? Is that by now, how could they not know that it's all gonna be about him and about power and about punishing enemies and all that. It's like they don't hear it, but I do think that there's room for that to to be made clear, and they're gonna, they can use it in clever ways. They have to spend a lot of money on it, but it has to be something that people hammer home. And I want to compliment the Biden team on one thing now, is they have caught on. They're calling it like a freedom agenda. I think we'll hear about this on Thursday night at State of the Union. That Republicans, this is remarkable, right? Republicans used to be the party of liberty. All they talked about when I was growing up was freedom and liberty. And the Democrats have figured out how to turn this around and say they want to take away a bunch of the freedom to vote, the freedom over your body, the freedom to make your own health choices, the freedom to free and fair elections. I mean, on and on and on. And it is, I think that's going to be effective if they can sort of get that together, repeat it all the time, make sure everyone's on the same page, that the GOP now will take away your freedoms. And that's simple. And IVF is such a perfect, tangible example of that. I think far more compelling to the average American than complications from pregnancies where you have to have an abortion-like procedure because you could die. And right, this is sort of hard for people to understand, ectopic pregnancies, right? But IVF, I think this is the kind of thing that if the Democrats use it correctly and say, we are now the party of freedom, and they are the party of taking away, centralizing power in the executive and no checks and balances, and then taking away the freedom of the masses. I mean, if they can drive that home, people will understand it.
You think Biden will really stress that Thursday night? Freedom and the freedom agenda, kind of, and
Well,
threat to freedom from Trump?
I hope they will, because I know it's on their deck for the campaign, and so they need to use that on Thursday night. I think it'd be very powerful if Yulia Navalny is there. I know she's been invited to be his guest. I don't know that if she's there. I think that kind of, not democracy but freedom,
That's interesting.
is much more sort of digestible for a lot of people. So
and I think our friend and colleague Sarah Longwell will be getting to work early tomorrow morning on the Republican voters against Trump, but also the former Trump officials against Trump, because you're talking about messengers who could bring home the threats of a Trump second term. And of course, the people who worked with him in the first term, who have now, those who have come forward and broken and are willing to speak out and do so on television and be recorded doing so and give speeches doing so. That will be something we didn't really have much of in 2020. We got a few people to come step forth, and I give them a huge amount of credit, and others kind of gave a couple of interviews, but having a real bunch of people out there saying, I work with them and I supported them and I voted for him once or twice in many cases, right? But you've got to understand this second term is going to have the following characteristics, and that are really dangerous. I think that could make a bit of a difference along those same lines.
I agree. And you and I talked about this in 2020, that we needed those people who we knew appreciated the danger to speak out. We almost got a second Trump term then, and they didn't speak out, Bill, in significant numbers. And now we're in this danger again because people disapprove of Biden and they've had it and prices are too high. But the danger is so much greater. And this concept to really drive home that this man that has no intention of, he will abuse his power so much more than he ever did, but he has no intention of giving it up. I mean, it's these people have to, the people that in our coalition, the messengers really have to make that point. They have to connect the dots for people the way Liz Cheney tries to. She's the most explicit messenger. And I think Democrats will be very bold about this, that don't use terms like he's going to come to wreck the system. Be specific. Like, he would like to have tanks in the street. He would like to totally disorder the government so that everyone is a political appointee and can be fired without cause. And it's just a completely uncheckable, corrupted system where he can run a kleptocracy like he wanted to the first time, but didn't. You have to paint these pictures. but they have to, it takes, it's going to be a gutsy, bold message. It's not what the Biden team has ever done. And so they're going to have to make a shift. And the Democratic surrogates are going to have to do the same about not just they're anti-women, and it's not just about abortion. They have to be very explicit about how far it goes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, here we are, late on 10:30 p.m. on March.
On the superest of Tuesdays.
We have the two major party nominees, barring weird developments, and we might have an independent or third party candidates. We will have some independent candidate, third party candidates, but will we have a major one? We don't know. And that's kind of amazing. I mean, we've seen this coming for a year, and I haven't quite believed it would come for a year, and here we are for a year. And I suppose now I can spend the next few months thinking maybe something will still change. So, but it probably won't, I guess. It's kind of hard to, sort of sinking in as I see those returns. But you'd be glad to know that my precinct here in Northern Virginia was better than 2-1 for Haley over Trump. So I can still go to the Giants, and show my face there and stuff, and don't have to go in disguise. So
that's what we want. We want to make sure that you're in a safe bubble.
Thank you. In Northern Virginia, not quite Vermont, but it's next second best thing. A.B., thanks a lot for taking some time to join me tonight and join our viewers and listeners. And thank you all for joining us here on this special live stream, which you can also now watch the replay of the Bulwark. See you soon.